Hello everyone, Andre here. Just a couple of weeks ago, the fine people at HiddenMix, the makers of the RipX software, got in touch with me to see if I wanted to try out and maybe share with you their app. And the reason is that they think it can be extremely useful for the learning and practicing guitarist. The idea is that you'll be able to feed the software any stereo mix. So basically any song you'll be listening to on Spotify or Apple Music or from your CD collection. And RipX will magically separate the song into stems, into separate instruments. So if you're trying to work on the guitars of a song, you'll be able to just listen to the guitars without the distraction of the backing tracks. But more amazing than that is that now all the stems will be displayed on a piano roll. And that means you'll have access to pitch information, duration information, even you'll be able to see the vibrato of a note on the screen. And that kind of makes the whole difference if you're trying to learn a solo note by note, for example. So not only can you hear the isolated track, you can actually see it and touch it. And as a matter of fact, there are so many ways you can then manipulate it. You can change the tempo, you can change the pitch. You could even assign another instrument to play that part. You could export it as MIDI. You can, of course, make backing tracks by muting some instruments and not others, and a lot more. Now, I must say, when I was first contacted, I was a little skeptical because, as you know, I'm a bit of an old school guy, and I would usually say, if you want to learn a song, just learn it by ear and make up your own damn rhythm tracks. But then I read up on the software, I saw some of their videos, and I looked at some of the people who use it and endorse it, and I was intrigued. So full disclosure, HiddenMix did provide me with a copy of the software for review, but they have no say in the making of this video, and they will see it when you see it. I think it's also very important that they offer a 21-day trial for all their modules, so you'll be able to take it for a spin and see if it works for you. The full RipX software is made up of 3 modules, and they're called DeepRemix, DeepCreate, and DeepAudio. For most of our purposes today of learning and practicing and isolating guitar tracks, having that visual representation of them, creating backing tracks, for all that, all you need really is DeepRemix, which at the time of filming is available for 85 euros. I will also show you some features of DeepCreate, which can be interesting and useful, but keep in mind that this is very deep software and it has countless applications. So for today's video, I'll focus on what we're dealing with today, which is learning and practicing the guitar. And finally, for YouTube copyright reasons, I'll be using one of my own songs for today's demonstration, so we can do this without worrying about YouTube muting the video, which would make it kind of useless. Since most of you watching this are guitar players, and we're trying to figure out if it's a good tool to practice and learn solos and guitar parts, I thought it would be appropriate to see how it deals with an instrumental track. I also ran some tests with vocals, and I have to say that DeepRemix is very competent in identifying and extrapolating vocal tracks. So let's pick a song, move over to the computer, and see how it goes. So first things first, we're going to choose a song. In this case, it's going to be In Dreams from the album Lights and Shadows, and it's in WAV format. All we do is we drag and drop it onto DeepRemix. As soon as we do that, we see this pop-up window here asking for how many stems and which stems we would like. For the sake of this video, I'll do all of them, but if I remove some of them, you'll see that processing time goes down drastically. I tried fooling RipX into thinking that my melodic guitar were vocal lines. To no avail, it's too smart for that, so we'll leave voice out. But if you ever have a vocal track you want to work with, of course, you'll check that. Let's hit rip, and now we just kind of sit around for about 20 minutes, sometimes a bit less than that, and let RipX work its magic. And here it is, the full song In Dreams blown up into its constituent parts. You can see on the left-hand side, we have the instrument that the software has recognized, sometimes perfectly, sometimes just the names are a bit off. For example, the green strings voice here or layer is actually backwards sitars, but it will be forgiven for not recognizing that. But if I listen to the whole thing now, the song is actually all there. Right? You can hear the song basically as if it was just a regular WAV file. You have complete control of all these different layers. So if I want to mute the guitars or solo them, better yet, I can do that and it will remove the bass, the drums, those sitars and all that. Now, the only thing that I was mentioning earlier is that my melodies, which are kind of like the vocal part of the song, they are grouped with the guitars, which for learning purposes is absolutely fine. As you can hear, there's the guitar. But it goes way beyond that, because if we zoom in horizontally just a little bit, you'll see that each of these notes you are hearing, you can actually see them on the piano roll and you can play them back. So if you're trying to figure out part of a solo or a melody, all you have to do is click on that note. If you can't figure it out by ear, look at the piano roll and all you have to do is just find that note on the guitar. We can do this with any instrument. If you're trying to figure out a bass part, you can just click on the bass layer and it will be highlighted for you, and you can just go and hit play. Sounds convincing. Of course, it doesn't sound the same as the actual bass track, but there's not too many artifacts, and as a matter of fact, you could use this for a remix with no problem at all. As a matter of fact, if I thought that one of these notes was a bit off, I could take it and move it. Right? Luckily though, I played it perfectly the first time. While we're at it, let's have a quick look at the drums as well. After all, they would be an integral part of building rhythm and backing tracks. So again, it's extremely simple. You can play back the whole thing and solo the drum parts. And as you can hear, you now get access to this groove, which was basically taken from a full mix. So keep in mind that you can do this with any song you love, any rhythms you are into. You know, if you discover a new drummer you love, you can kind of play along with him or her by simply extracting it from whatever record you hear them on. And of course, you can then export this as a WAV file and do whatever you want with it, and maybe practice on top of it, or use it to remix something, or whatever it is, build up a new song upon it, and so on. Now let's look at more of a solo section and see if DeepRemix can help us out there. Let's play the song. Not too difficult, but there's quite a bit of vibrato and you know, bar action, so let's see how it does. Let's solo the guitars, and it's of course a lot easier to hear. And if you're ever lost, again, you just click on a note. And the slide down. You can listen to any note within the riff. So it might take a bit of time, and you probably don't have to do it with every single note, right? You can just do it with the ones that you really can't figure out by ear. So it does work. And finally, let's look at some chords. So here we are at the beginning of the song, but I picked a section that's a bit busier than the very beginning. There's the guitars in the back, and now there's a melody on top of the chords, and a bit of drums and percussion, and the bass. So first things first, we solo the guitars. And with all this information at once, it might be a bit hard for you to pick out the chords. But if you look at the notes, you can see that the chords are visible, even though on top of them there's all these other notes. And this will 100% tell you which notes to play. You can also notice back here, maybe it's a bit easier to see, that even though I'm arpeggiating the notes, so they have a different starting point, I hold them throughout the bar. So it still recognizes them as three separate notes, and it will make it a lot easier for you to pick up. If you have a lot of distortion in your guitars, maybe it will throw it off a little bit. It might give you an extra note here and there because of the harmonics, but in general, it would really help you out. Now, if you wanted to make some basic tracks to practice or rehearse on, this is on one hand perfect. You can import an Eric Clapton song, stem it out, remove the guitars, and there you are playing along to his voice and his backing band. You might also choose not to take the guitars out altogether, simply go to the layer and lower the volume of the guitars and keep them as a guide, but they won't be as intrusive. So for that, this is just perfect. But what if you wanted to play a lead or a solo on top of the existing rhythm tracks of the song? Now that is an issue because, as we said earlier, DeepRemix recognizes your melodic parts of the guitar or your solos as part of the guitar's layer, so they will be mixed together with the chords. Luckily, they thought of that too, and they allow you to select any note within the stem or the layer and move it to a new layer. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So we're going to try it in this verse here. Let's hear it. This should be enough to give it a shot, and if you solo the guitars, you'll see that in effect we have the lead part tied together with the rest of the guitars. There's chords behind it. So how do we do it? Well, first of all, we're going to create a new layer. We're just going to make one up, and we're going to call it lead guitar. And here it shows up as a new layer. It's still empty, of course, because we haven't put any notes in it. So to do that, we simply go back to the guitar layer, and if we listen to it, we can actually see the melody as it happens. Right? So we can simply now reach in and select the first note of the melody, and to move it to a new layer, it's as simple as hitting that little arrow there, and that's it. It's moved to the lead guitar layer, and from now on we can actually use a shortcut to make things faster and just hit the M key on your keyboard. And I'm going to go through all the notes that I think could be part of the melody and remove them. Now, this song is very complicated to analyze because I use the wah pedal, so the resonances are all over the place. And also there's a bunch of delay. So it's kind of amazing actually how clearly it's represented on the screen. Let's get to here. Then you can of course be much more surgical. You can right click and you can cut, split, join, you know, you can draw the notes yourself. So this is a quick look. Let's hear now what we have for a lead guitar. Now this might sound a little weird, but let's check it out. So there's a couple of things missing, which means probably they were left behind, and you can actually have both of them on screen and see if you can recognize where some of these notes went missing and remove them. But overall, if I take out now the lead guitar and listen to the whole track, it's probably not going to be as bad if I want to just play along with it. I could certainly practice on top of this, but I think this is where we hit the limits of the separation software, because some of these notes, when I click on them, I hear both the rhythm track, a note of the chord, and the lead track. They're both fused together. So I'm not sure how I go about separating them because they appear as one single event, but maybe it's something that will be updated later on as the software and the algorithm gets better and better. There's also another way you can use this to build your own rhythm tracks, which is to not worry about the fact that both lead and rhythm tracks are put together. So we mute both of them and we get this very clean sounding rhythm section. And at that point, you might want to record your own rhythm tracks and lead tracks on top of this. This is great, of course, for practicing, for testing out new ideas, for maybe changing the solo to a song you like for your own, and many other applications that you'll come up with. And for that, you need another module that's called DeepCreate. And I wanted to demonstrate this recording feature for you, but I must apologize both to you and to the people at Hit & Mix, because through no fault of the software, this is a matter of internal routing within my computer and my system here, I can't send the output of my Apollo system that is set up with Pro Tools and other software that I use all the time into the very clearly labeled universal audio input for DeepRemix, or better said, DeepCreate. And again, this has nothing to do with the software itself. It's to do with me not being able to trace it back to where it's not going where it's supposed to go. So I must apologize, but the process is very simple. I was able to make it work with the built-in microphone, but the overall sound sounded really bad. My iMac is pretty old and the microphone is terrible. So you must take my word for it. You are able to record into the software and it will appear just as this track here appears. It will appear as a completely analyzed track, which you can then do anything you want to, just as you would to any other track that is created from the stems. Now let me try and redeem myself by showing you another very cool feature of DeepCreate, which is the sound replacement application, which can be fun, but it can also be very useful. So let's put the bass track in solo and let's listen to what it sounds like. Right? Now, depending on what I'm doing to this track, maybe I'm remixing it, maybe I'm adapting it to a new style of music, I might want to actually have this bass sound play exactly as it does, but with a different sound, a different instrument performing it. And you can actually do that. It's kind of magical. All you have to do is select the notes you want to change. And on this side here, it lets you pick a number of other instruments. It comes with a bunch of sounds, but you can actually add your own VST sounds or your own samples. So if you have some favorite sounds you're using, then you can do it here in the DeepCreate software. But let's try with something existing. Let's try classic. And maybe we should have a bassoon instead of a bass. like that. Or let's try something else. Cellos, a marimba, very low. We might have to pitch this up before using marimba, or a piano. Notice how it follows the duration and the dynamics of your track. So this is another of the big features of DeepCreate, the sound replacement, and as you can see here from the menu, there's a lot more going on. So there you have a quick demonstration of what DeepRemix, DeepCreate, and the RipX software in general can do for you. I think if you're a practicing guitarist, then being able to really get into the songs you love and understand them and actually see them and being able to touch them and manipulate them, it's invaluable. I think if you don't have the 12 hours a day that people like me say, well, you must take the long way around and do the hard work, then this is really useful. Also, I think it's telling that they offer 21-day trials because they make big promises with their software and they're not afraid to put it in your hands so you can take them for a spin and see if you can implement them into your own process. If you're into other kinds of music, such as maybe electronic music or deeply experimental music, then you'll be able to really dive deep into this, because I think for the learning part, we really only just scratch the surface. But if you use it as a creative tool, and you dive into the sound manipulation, the sound replacement, the stemming, and you can take a vocal from this track and a rhythm track from there, maybe get that bass drum you really like from the other song, and do all kinds of stuff to them, even replace sounds, replace a vocal track with a bassoon, or whatever it is you're doing. There's really endless possibilities. As a matter of fact, I think if you're doing creative work with this, this could be your one stop for everything. If you're more of a traditionalist producer, such as myself, you still find many uses for it. You can do stems from your mixes. You can maybe go in and fix that bum bass note that made it past the editing stage. You can use it if you're in a cover band and they say, hey, you have to learn 40 songs for this weekend's gig. Then this will make things a lot easier. And really the applications are endless. So all in all, I was quite impressed, and I do suggest you go to hiddenmix.com, grab a demo and give it a try for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this little hands-on demo and review, and thanks as always for being there and for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.